the question came from Jamie Dalgano, so big thank you for the question. Big thank you for everyone that has sent questions in. There is only one question in this episode because it is a really good question. It is an awesome question that I really wanted to answer in some real depth, and I didn't want the podcast to run on for a very long duration. So yeah, the question is, in terms of mindset and work ethic, who are some of your favorite athletes or coaches to look at for tips? So my answer is sort of split into 3 sections, because I wanted to split this answer into 3 sections because where I am now is where I am now in terms of mindset and work ethic and that kind of things is very different to my sort of entry point to seeing mindset as a tool for productivity, for how you work, for training, for general life. Sort of my entry into seeing sort of mindset in that sort of light is very different to where I am and the kind of people that I do follow now. So yeah, it started for me with Gary Vaynerchuk. For those of you that don't know who he is, just type in Gary V, so GaryVvee on Instagram. You'll see Gary V come up there. He's multimillionaire, owner of VaynerMedia, VaynerX, among very many other things. He's a marketing, and his business is all to do with online marketing and those kinds of things. And the spiel that comes from him is sort of hustle and hard work and those kinds of things. And one thing that sort of really resonated with me following him is a big piece of his spiel is always doing the right thing, and the right thing is always the right thing to do. The right thing is always the right thing to do, and I think that's something that's really stuck for me since watching his stuff. And I don't watch much of his stuff anymore. I did watch it religiously somewhere a good few months ago. He has a daily vlog that goes out on YouTube. It's very good. You're someone that follows him around. It is a very good vlog, so I highly recommend. Those of you that are interested in business, those of you that perhaps do run your own business, are interested in marketing and those kinds of things, there is a huge amount of value to be taken from his vlog. He also has a podcast and all that good stuff. I highly recommend you hit up his videos if you haven't ever watched them previously. They are super interesting. So yeah, and what sort of stuck with me from him, and sort of that instilled me sort of his thing of hustle and hard work, and you can get to where you want to be by putting in the work and putting in the effort. That sort of firstly really stuck with me. And then the second thing was always doing the right thing, and the right thing to do is always the right thing to do. And if you say you're going to do something, making sure that you do it, and not sacrificing something because it gives you short term, like again for the long term, not sacrificing the long term for the short term gains, making sure that you always have the bigger picture, the long term in mind with whatever decisions you make. And this was very related to sort of running the business and how I did the marketing and those kinds of things. That for me was sort of my first insight into using mindset and seeing mindset as a tool for making a difference, and as a tool for sort of life, for training, for nutrition, for running the business. And it was sort of my first taste of sort of employing a certain mindset and really trying to sort of seeing things from a different point of view, I think is the kind of what I'm trying to say. And that sort of led me on, gave me a really good interest in, this sort of started my interest in mindset and it sort of grew from there. And my second part, I said it was split up into 3 sections. That was the sort of my intro to it. And then my first real delve into a little bit deeper was reading The Growth Mindset by Dr. Carol S. Dweck. A lot of people, this is a very popular book. And if you haven't read it, I absolutely highly recommend that you do. It is a very great book, and it is all about how you can employ a growth mindset and how you can use a growth mindset and how to employ one for yourself and really open your mind up to sort of what is available and how to do things within a growth mindset. And this was a real turning point for me. Reading this book was a real turning point to me. Not necessarily for sort of opening up to other ideas, but that was something that I was fairly receptive to. Not quite so much. I'm a lot more receptive to other ideas and other ways of thinking now than I was then. But it was a real turning point for me in terms of understanding that whatever I want to do, whatever goals I have, wherever I want to go, whether it is with the business, training, whatever it is, understanding that I am in control, and understanding that if I put in the work and if I work to develop and learn more and get better, then I fundamentally am in control of where I want to go and where I want to be. So that was a huge turning point for me. And if you have not read the Growth Mindset book by Dr. Carol S. Dweck, I highly recommend that you do. It's a very good book. I'm not sure if I've actually finished it. I don't think I have actually finished it. I think I'm a couple of chapters short of a good few pages of finishing it, so I'm looking forward to really digging in and finishing that off. But yeah, I highly recommend. There is a lot of value to be taken from that book. And it's not just sort of one of those books that you can read and sort of none of it really sinks in and you don't really take away anything that you can implement. There is a huge amount in that book that you can implement, and stuff that I did implement straight away to start employing a more growth-focused mindset and sort of really understanding that whatever I want to do, wherever I want to go, I'm in control, and I can, if whatever my goals are, fundamentally I am the one in control of taking myself where I want to go in the future. So in the final part, the third and final section of this answer is the people, the people I sort of started off. Part one was the first bit was how I sort of got into seeing mindset. Second part was sort of a book that I've read and sort of where I took my mindset forward from there. And then the last part sort of really directly answers the question a little bit more in terms of athletes or coaches that I look at. And the first one is Barbell Shrugged, or the Barbell Collective, Shrugged Collective, that it is now called. And these were sort of my first real listening and watching to their podcasts was my first time I really dug into trying to learn as much as I could to really dig myself into coaching. Listening to the Barbell Shrugged podcast was something that I did religiously. I listened to every single episode. I don't think I've gone back to every single episode from the beginning, but I have watched very many of them, and they were sort of my first real dig into really trying to learn as much as I could about coaching. So I really do love what they do with their podcast, and they were sort of partly the inspiration for starting this podcast was taking what I'd learned in the growth mindset, and then by sort of watching Barbell Shrugged, and then sort of, going, do you know what? That's something I'd really love to do. I'd love to start my own podcast. Obviously, at the moment, we are nowhere near the sort of level of podcasting, but I've got a little bit to say about that at the end. I'm obviously not to do with this podcast being better than this. It's not what I was getting at, but in terms of sort of my inner drive, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But yeah, the Barbell Shrugged podcast was a big inspiration for me in starting this podcast, in sort of putting myself out there, really learning as much as I could about coaching. So I'm hugely thankful for everything that they do with their podcast, and I absolutely love how they do the show. I love how much they genuinely want to learn from the people that they have on their podcast, and I think it gives a genuine vibe to how they run the show, and like them having a genuine interest in the questions and wanting to learn from the guests that they have on. And that's something that I really want to do here. Is I am hugely passionate about learning and learning as much as I can. So hopefully getting guests on that are that I'm genuinely interested in learning from is something that I really do want to do, and I will have some people on very, very soon. So yeah, that was the first one. It was the Now the Shrug Collective, the Barbell Shrug podcast. That was the first one for me. Second one, Jason Kalipa. You will all know Jason Kalipa from the CrossFit Games, those of you that are interested in CrossFit, which I hope most of you are listening to the podcast. Big fan of what he does at the NC Fit and the NC Fit Collective, that is now what it's called. Big fan of all his work. He's now, I think what he does really resonates with myself, because obviously to a different sort of level. He was a CrossFitter, but he is now a business. Now first and foremost a businessman with the NC Fit Collective and opening multiple gyms and sort of really doing a bunch of other things as well. I really love his AMRAP mentality thing that he has going on there. Sort of the whatever he does, doing as many rounds as possible. Classic CrossFit AMRAP. Really big fan of that sort of mentality and how he works. Very similar to the Gary Vee stuff in sort of hustle and hard work and those kinds of things. Just generally a big fan. Just generally big fan of sort of his work, and I really dug into some of his stuff more recently. He's got a vlog over on YouTube. There's not too many episodes that are more recent, but he did do a bunch of episodes that were sort of in quick succession, and they were super interesting. Gives a lot of insight into how he works, what he does, and how he does things. A lot of those of you that are perhaps either do own a gym or are thinking of opening a gym, there's a lot in those vlogs that you can take away and sort of apply to your own gym or to the gym that you may well be opening or thinking of opening, because he talks through a lot of stuff on how they run things at NC Fit and at each of their locations, and talks about the general sort of the general stuff, that the general things that they do between all locations, and then some location specific things for each of their individual gyms as well, which is really interesting. Then the last person, not necessarily too linked to sort of the mindset aspect or work ethic or those kinds of things, but in terms of generally taking inspiration and being interested in and sort of finding someone very cool, is Adam von Rothfelder at Von Rothfelder on Instagram. He's been on, I've been a big fan, followed him pretty closely since his Barbell Shrugged episode, which I think now is a couple of months ago, so followed him pretty extensively, so go check him out on Instagram. He's a very cool guy, super interesting, does some cool stuff. He recently launched Strong Coffee Company, at Strong Coffee Company on Instagram. Check them out. Just generally a very cool guy. You get to see a lot of what he does. He's a very good trainer, a very good coach, very interesting person. If you haven't seen it or watched it or listened to it, his Barbell Shrugged episode, do go and listen. It is very interesting. He's a very cool guy, done a lot of cool things, and that was sort of not necessarily too linked to mindset and work ethic, but it will all tie in when I talk a little bit about the finishing off this podcast. But yeah, very cool guy. That is probably primarily the reason why I follow him, but he is also within the sort of the fitness industry, which does make him pretty relevant. So yeah, to finish off, and this will sort of tie up some of sort of why I follow Adam von Rothfelder, Jason Kalipa, those kinds of things. And I think for me personally, a lot of my mindset and where I see my mindset sort of comes from within. The fire sort of comes from within, and seeing the people that are ahead of me in the industry, whether it is as a coach, whether it is as a business, and looking at them objectively and saying they are ahead of me, they're doing something, perhaps they're doing something better, perhaps they've been doing something for longer, perhaps they know more, whatever it is, looking at it objectively and going, they're ahead of me. I really take motivation and inspiration from those people that are ahead, and this sort of really ties in with the growth mindset, is that I know that I really understand that if I keep working, if I keep working hard, if I keep learning, if I keep developing, then I can get to and even surpass where they are or where they are at currently, and sort of then end up further ahead than they are, or further down the line, or in a much better position. So a lot of my mindset comes from looking objectively at people that are ahead, not, and this is fundamentally that I do have to say, is not looking at them and going, oh, I wish I was there, or looking at them going, oh, how are they in that position, or looking at them in any way that is sort of jealous or sort of then looking down on them or those kinds of things. It is absolutely nothing like that at all. What I take from it is looking at them objectively and saying they are in that position ahead of me because they either know more, they've been doing it longer, they're better at whatever it is, they know more, they've spent more time learning, whatever it is, they got more experience, whatever it is, I can look at them objectively and really take inspiration and be inspired that if I do the work, when I put the work in, when I continue to learn, when I continue to develop, when I continue to build experience, then I will get there and I will get further. And I think really for me, that is what fires me up, and that is what gets me going and really inspires me to want to do more. And it's not a case of I want to be in their position, or look at that person, I want to be them, or look at that person, I want to be ahead of them. It is, I just use that as sort of a, not necessarily a tool. It's just I feel like I've developed a mindset of that I can look at people and go, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, I can be better here. Maybe I can look at what they do and go, do you know what, maybe I should do a better job of doing this. I'm going to spend some time learning, I'm going to spend some time implementing it, and then I'll build some experience in whatever it is, whether it's a specific aspect of coaching, if it is programming, if it is understanding marketing or finances or anything like that. Whatever it is, I feel like I've developed a mindset that I can look at businesses, I can look at people, I can look at coaches, I can look at athletes objectively and really take away that they're ahead of me because of something, they're ahead of me for a reason, but not taking a negative from that, is really taking a positive and going, do you know what, if I keep learning, maybe I need to do this better, maybe I need to be better at doing this, maybe I need some more experience doing this, then I will get there. And knowing that I'm in control, and if I want to get there, I can get there, I will do the work, and that will put me much further ahead than where I am now. So yeah, they're really like, and to fundamentally answer sort of the mindset and the work ethic, and come back to the question again, is there isn't really specifically someone that fires me up and really gets me going in terms of work ethic and sort of the motivation. There isn't really someone who fundamentally gets me going in terms of that. My fire, my drive comes from sort of my ultimate drive to become a better coach, become better at business, become a better individual, to have a better mindset, to know more, to build my knowledge, to build my experience, and to impact more, and sort of really understanding that wherever I want to go in the future, wherever I want to head to, whatever I want to do, I am in control of that. And if I put in the work, then I will absolutely get there. So I hope that has answered your question. I hope that has answered the question. Apologies. Yeah. So there's a very lengthy, in-depth answer to that question. So yeah, like I said, that was the reason why I did only want to put that one question in for this episode. I think this is the longest episode we've done. That's super exciting. That was I enjoyed that question. It was an awesome question. That question came from Jamie Delgado, and the question was, in terms of mindset and work ethic, who are some of your favorite athletes or coaches to look at for tips?